Dramatic times in North Africa, if I may say so, Mohamed. What is your first response to just hearing the news now that Mubarak has stepped down?
History is in making, and this is a really very emotional moment. Just a few minutes we heard that one of the worst oppressor and tyrannic regime has fallen. And Mubarak is living. Who was imagined that just a few weeks ago? It was unimaginable.
Would you describe this as a people's revolution?
Definitely. We are seeing and witnessing one of the best moments of the Arabs on the last 200 years. This is one of the best moments, if we accept probably the Algerian Revolution in 1954. We have never seen, and the Arabs have never been able to do such things to the tyranny on the last 60 years.
Right. Well, if I could bring you in, Sheriff, what do you think has been the main catalyst that's giving people such courage to take control of their destiny? What do you see happening in North Africa at this point?
I think there has been resentment against the lack of democracy and human rights and development in the region for a long time. But I think the economic crises facing these countries spurred on that resentment. I mean, people have been upset for a while, but when people are hungry and jobless, this is what gets them on the street.
Right.
So it's although things have only started in the last month or so, I think the resentment and anger has been long brewing, and the economy brought on the actual street protests.
And we're going to talk later on in the show about where you think this wave may lead to further on. But just give people a background, please, Mohamed, on this state of emergency. I think you were thinking before we started the show that you believe that the state of emergency actually hasn't been lifted.
Not at all. It hasn't been. There is a promise that it will be in the near future. We don't know what is the near future. And even when it will be lifted, they are, if like someone is going from the door, coming from the window, they are going to change it to by another law, which is a law against terrorism. And that means they are going to fold the emergency law in a normal law, making it from an exceptional law to a routine or normal law. This is even worse because this is tricky things. They will tell you that there is no emergency, but in fact it's worse than an emergency because the law and the same rules of the emergency is enfolded within this new law against terrorism.
And what prompted the instituting of this state of emergency? Not everyone is aware of the history of Algeria.
I will try to make it very simple to your viewers because I know that most of them, they haven't probably accessed information about Algeria in the last 20 years. On exactly 19 years ago, the Algerian people chose for the first time in 30 years after the independence, and chose 3 parties to run the country in parliamentary election. And the main party who won the election was an Islamist party. The generals of the army decided that this is wrong and the Algerian has done a big mistake, the Algerian people has done a big mistake, and a handful of them decided to topple the president, to cancel the election, to suspend the constitution, and to impose an emergency law. This is even before the events start. It was imposed exactly 19 years ago on the 9th of February 1992, 19 years ago, and since it has been imposed. And since it has been imposed, it was absolutely a matter of abuse, because everything that means it was in the hands of the army. They do what they want, they suspend who they want, and the judge under their rule, diplomacy under their rule, interior minister under their rule, everything was under the power of the generals. They got very huge power, all the power in one hand or in the hand of few generals. These generals.
So unlike Mubarak, are you saying that Bouteflika is not so much like the head of this dictatorship, but the army has more control?
He's not. He is the representative, if you want, or the facade of the regime, because the regime needs, and under the advice of the West, they ask their friends, the generals, to have a military, civilian facade, civilian faces, to be able to deal with them. If not, it will be very difficult to sell this to their people, to the Western countries. Therefore, they have decided to bring Bouteflika to the president, although he came from 1962. On 1962, he was a minister. Imagine that on 1962, before Obama was born, Bouteflika was in power. And imagine how many American presidents passed, how many British, and so.
Yeah.
He was, and he's still in 50 years in power, but he's a facade power. The real power, the heart of the power is in the hand of the DRS, which is the secret services and the chief of staff.